Here's Brody Brazil.
I am definitely not here to say that any part of this process in the last few months have been pretty, but maybe we are approaching the ugly point of this A's saga and potential relocation to Las Vegas. As the San Francisco Chronicle points out, maybe right now it truly is MLB versus Oakland. I want to call your attention to an article that Shea recently published. The headline says, Oakland Mayor, MLB's Rob Manfred wage war of words over A's move to Las Vegas. This came out a couple days ago. It spells out some new information and quotes and really some kickback from the commissioner and his office and how baseball feels about this entire process. I know everyone wants to pile on the A's and pile on MLB, Manfred said, but I do think in fairness, people have to look at what Mayor Shea of Oakland has done and not done. She's great on MLB did this wrong and John Fisher did that wrong. Did she really handle this well? Don't think so. I only want to point out that Mayor Tao was elected in November of 2022, took office in January of 2023, and was only in office a matter of weeks and months, several weeks, several months before the A's process got really thick and then really intense, in a sense that April 19th, the team informed the city that they were turning their back and putting all of their focus on the city of Las Vegas and Nevada. So did she handle this well? It's not like she has been the front person for all of this for so many years. A lot of that was her predecessor, Libby Schaaf, who it appears that the mayor did have a good relationship. But as you'll see here from these quotes, the commissioner and the current mayor just do not really get along at all. Manfred, who seemed agitated during parts of this interview, took other shots at Tao, questioning her conduct and suggesting the newly elected mayor should assume blame for Oakland losing its third team after the Warriors moved to San Francisco and the Raiders bolted for Las Vegas on the watch of her predecessor, Libby Schaaf. But again, that's part of the article, and that's what Shea is pointing out. But to the commissioner's intended point there, one team didn't really leave the region. It left the city, and the Raiders were bound to do what they did. And none of this has really fallen on Shea Tao. She was a council member prior to being elected mayor. If you want to blame the city of Oakland for some of those things happening, okay. But for the commissioner to point it all and say, well, she's about to lose her third team, like in this quote, I understand that this is a rough time for Mayor Tao. It looks like she's going to lose yet another franchise from the Bay Area. That's unfortunate. That's a tough spot to be in. But I think we've kind of gotten to the point where we need to point out that she's not telling people the truth, according to the commissioner, Rob Manfred. There was that meeting in Seattle. Shea Tao and a couple colleagues traveled to Seattle for the All-Star game to hand out those informational packets to really show the commissioner and other owners across the league how close the A's and the city and the county of Alameda were actually on a Howard Terminal deal. Because at that point, the biggest expression was, and from the mayor's office from the commissioner's office, that there was no deal. They were so far apart. She wanted to prove that part wrong. But there's also some questions, some literal he said, she said, about was expansion, potential expansion in Oakland discussed in that meeting in Seattle. Was Oakland keeping the rights to the name and colors of the Oakland A's franchise? Was that part of the meeting? Rob Manfred said, quote, that is not true. The entire meeting was about a proposal they wanted presented to keep the A's in Oakland. So why would they be talking about an extension and making demands about what was going to happen if they went to Las Vegas? The whole purpose of the meeting was to convince us that they had a proposal to stay in Oakland. It makes no sense. It's also not true. Manfred added, we never talked about expansion. We never talked about her keeping the A's name, like Oakland keeping the A's name. There was never a conversation about these alleged demands before executing a lease. Let me just throw in here. It doesn't really matter. Like, that is such a minute detail. And quite honestly, I know it's being brought up, and it's definitely a point of contention between these two sides, but we're not at that stage yet. Back when the mayor visited the commissioner mid-July for the All-Star game, it was about making contact, finally, face to face. You understand these two had a communication problem for a long time, which you're about to see and we'll get into here. This was more about setting a tone, establishing a few things. Why is this part honestly even important? Clearly they disagree on this. They disagree on a lot of things. But at that point, it was more about here's what we're actually at. Here's who we are. Here's what we're trying to do. Here's where we've been. Because quite honestly, I don't know that Commissioner Manfred is actually up to speed on all this stuff as we think he has been for the last 2, 3, 5+ years. Let's go back to the night of April 19th when the A's officially informed Mayor Tao that they'd be turning all of their focus away from Oakland and putting it on a future in Las Vegas, to which the mayor responded, fine, if you're done talking to us, then we're just going to kind of close it off with you guys right now. We don't want to be used as leverage, which brings up the apparent controversy of who turned away here. Because in the Chronicle interview, Manfred tried to chide the mayor, observing, do you think that was a productive step? In terms of her also saying, fine, if you're done with us, we're done with you. But when reminded that the next day, Mayor Tao said, quote, if they want to call us today, I would take their phone call. Manfred pivoted and said, okay, my only point is, if she was all engaged in keeping Oakland, why do you tell the other side I'm cutting off negotiations? Well, why was that the initial move by the A's? You're basically saying you wanted her to take the bait. You wanted her to follow in the process that the A's had laid out. If the A's turned their back on Oakland and said we're only focusing exclusively on Las Vegas, what was the mayor supposed to do? Beg harder? How does that go down the road with future negotiations and anything that was actually possible? But this doesn't even surprise me because there had been, again, that communication problem from the very start of all of this. As soon as Mayor Tao took office, and it seems like the commissioner's office stopped talking to the city of Oakland. In the September 1st interview, Manfred also questioned why Tao never reached out to him after she won the election in November. Libby Schaff had a long-standing relationship with the commissioner's office, having 8 years to build it. And of course, that part of this takes time. There had been communication. There had been better days. In April, Tao was in her 4th month as mayor when the A's pivoted to Las Vegas. Quote, I did not hear from Tao, not once, Manfred said. She's big on everybody should be talking. All the stakeholders should be talking. She wasn't talking to anybody, and she sure as hell wasn't talking to me. Why is it put that way, Commissioner? She sure as hell wasn't talking to me. Okay, that seems a little aggressive and a little forceful, and I didn't even hear you say it. I'm just reading the quotes, and it seems aggressive and defensive and all of the above. Manfred was asked whether he ever took the initial step of contacting Tao. I mean, he is part of a business that operates in this city of Oakland. That's not uncommon for a business official to have a relationship with a city official where they call home. I didn't, he says now, in terms of taking the initial step. I didn't know the woman. And I assumed that when she had something to say, she would call me. Assumption? I think we know the saying about assumption. That's always what happened with Mayor Schaff. Okay, and I will take that part and understand it a little bit better. He had a good relationship with Libby Schaff. But did you not realize that maybe there should be some initiative? You're the one that's continued in their role. She's new at this. Both sides, honestly. But especially from the commissioner's side, he and one of his teams are the ones trying to get something done here. Noting that Libby Schaff had initiated their relationship. But again, those were different times. Those were better days for both baseball and this franchise together. And the city of Oakland together. However, the commissioner was aware of the communications gap at MLB's winter meetings back in December at San Diego. I was there. He talked about it. He claimed that he expected to talk to the newly elected mayor, quote, in the near future. And I said back then, well, this is kind of childish. Both sides are saying, well, we haven't talked. He said, I will talk to her at some point in the near future. Obviously, he never initiated it. It took the mayor flying to Seattle to go meet him and find him eventually in July. But why no contact? And this is the story from the mayor's side of things. The mayor's office also said that the A's informed the mayor not to communicate with Manfred during negotiations. This according to the Chronicle. The Chronicle reported back in April, attributing the city, that the A's asked that any communication with the commissioner be coordinated through the team and strongly encouraged the city not to reach out to Manfred until there was something substantial to report on the deal. Manfred's response, I'm told that's not true, without identifying a source. I wasn't in on those conversations, but I'm told that's not true. The fact of the matter is, if you're going to keep a baseball team in Oakland, why would you agree not to talk to the commissioner of baseball? This is getting confusing and frustrating, and you're starting to see that no real side here, the team, the mayor, the commissioner, which side has taken a most mature lead on this? Which side has actually been fully functional this entire time? We were close to a deal. Honestly, if they were that close to a deal, the commissioner says, why didn't she, Mayor Sheng Tao, throw in the $100 million on the table? Manfred asked, trying to emphasize that the sides were not close on infrastructure money for Howard Terminal. Lee Hansen is the chief of staff in the mayor's office, says, quote, the city of Oakland was facing a historical deficit of $360 million and simply does not have $100 million sitting in their couch cushions like A's owner, Mr. John Fisher. So now we're getting to that point of literally pointing fingers in an extreme manner here. And I just think that question of, well, why didn't they pay for it? Again, I don't see a high level of cooperation here. I'm using the word maturity, but you understand my point that no side has really been flawless in any of this. Commissioner Manfred said this back in January of 2015. He said his preference was keeping the A's in Oakland. This is part of the Chronicle article here. As recently as July of 2018, Manfred said he didn't believe there was another market with, quote, the upside potential that Oakland has. And I think we would regret leaving Oakland if we did that. It's quite different from the way he's coming across here in 2023. In the end, this according to Lee Hansen, chief of staff of the mayor's office, there are people who are interested in purchasing the team. But as it's been said to us, you can't purchase something that's not for sale. The issue here is not the buyers, it's the sellers. The commissioner's response, all of this is about covering your ass at this point, says Rob Manfred. He's using a lot of colorful defensive language here. It's just unfortunate that you don't have a side that's really taken the lead, set the pace. I'm not making this video to blame one side or one person. This is a culmination of, I can't believe this. I can't believe there's something that's this big a deal that could benefit so many, that so many are hoping for, and leaders in charge can't actually make it work. So that's where things are at with baseball in Oakland. And you know what? What's my takeaway? Is this good for the process? A little heat, little tension, a little more conversation, little fiery attitude. Is it good or bad? I have no clue. It's something. It's different than it's ever been. Is this like the final straw, the final steps? Is this being built up to ease the departure of the A's to Las Vegas? Or is this being built up by the mayor's office to at least, cover themselves in future stories and how this goes down over history? I don't know. We'll find it out. But again, the temperature has definitely turned up between baseball and Oakland. You made it here to the end of the video. You know I appreciate that. Thumbs up down below. That'll help me out. And also, don't forget, Subscribe to this channel so I can definitely see you back here next time.